Thanks everyone for taking the time to attend this session today. So we're going to basically talk about securing agentic AI on AWS, practical steps and approach. You already heard about my intro. I'm certified in AWS machine learning and data certification, data engineering. So this is the agenda for today. We'll be going through what GenAI is and the agentic AI, how AWS, AI agents run on AWS, key AWS services for agentic AI, and the agentic AI architecture itself, in general, and then mapping that architecture to AWS and the general AI threat landscape, and the security challenges in AI systems, and the overall approach, hybrid security approach that we can take. And then I put together the agentic AI security architecture on AWS, overall what the solution looks like, what services we can include. And I put together a 10-point security blueprint or approach that we can use, mapping all the issues, security vulnerabilities, and then mapping to AWS services, and then key takeaways and conclusion at the end. So GenAI and the AI agents in general, basically we have the managed models, the enterprise integration for the AI agents to interact with, and it's deployed in production, and of course it will come up with some basic governance, and if there are multiple agents involved, there is orchestration involved, the agents talking to each other, and other services and external tools. Key AWS services for GenAI and AI agents. I'm sure you could have come across all of these. At the execution layer, we have step function, Lambda, and API gateway. And the reasoning model layer, we have Amazon Bedrock and Amazon agents, Bedrock agents, and SageMaker to build, train, and fine-tune models, to create your own model, custom models, and use it for training. And at the knowledge retrieval layer, we use Amazon OpenSearch to search for knowledge and to be able to provide information back to the user. It covers both the GenAI and agentic AI services that Amazon provides. So why security matters? Traditionally, from an application point of view, the threats are listed on the left side. Traditional app security, we have SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and data breaches, unauthorized server access, and the scope of the impact. And on the agentic AI side, we have prompt injection, data poisoning, context manipulation, knowledge source corruption, and the blast radius, and how, because of the multi-agentic architecture involved. Agentic AI architecture overall, as we saw, we have the input layer, the knowledge retrieval layer, the agent framework, workflow orchestration, if they're to coordinate multi-step AI tasks and functions, and then the actual execution being performed via API calls to enterprise services. So generally, the AI threat landscape, what are the actual threats from an agentic AI point of view at all of these layers? We just talked about it. Primarily here, the main things are like unauthorized API access. When multi-agents are involved, amplification on how all of those agents can be manipulated, and then data logic manipulation on data poisoning, context manipulation, and all of these threats in general for a agentic landscape. And then, so from an approach point of view, from autonomous challenges to a hybrid security approach, I think we have to address it from all of these different perspectives to address agentic AI security challenges. The first one is the input validation. Validate everything before processing. Second thing is reasoning defense, having strict guardrails and behavioral monitoring to model inputs, execution restriction, continuous monitoring, and setting up a governance control uh, for enterprise compliance based on enterprise policies. So mapping agentic components to AWS, reasoning and generation, of course, it's handled by Amazon Bedrock. Contextual information, all the searches and everything handled by open search. Workflow coordination handled by AWS Tech Function. Automated operations using Lambda functions. System tracking by monitoring all of the active AI system activities and enterprise AI communications. And how do we put together a agentic AI security architecture on AWS, right? So on Amazon Bedrock, we put together all the guardrails, and then WAF to filter requests and protect AI APIs from extended abuse, and then having strict controls from an IAM point of view, on what resources they can access and to limit the blast radius, and having CloudTrail to monitor all the API activities for continuous monitoring, auditing, and threat investigation. So, yeah, so I put together 10-point security blueprint for agentic AI. How 10 points on how to approach overall security for agentic AI. So 10 points. The first thing being setting up the boundaries, setting up least privileges. The third one is authentication, of course, who can access what. And the fourth thing is protecting your data on what agentic AI accesses and presents to users. And fifth one is like validating the prompts before processing it. And the sixth step is like testing everything, validating testing before execution. And the seventh step is having guardrails in place so that before presenting it to the user, the results to execution results to the user. And ninth thing is continuously monitoring the whole centralized logging of everything that's happening between all these layers, 1 to 8, and then continuously monitoring using GuardDuty, Security Hub, and config. We didn't address these services in previous slides. And the centralized logging using CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and OpenSearch. Subsequent slides will go through all of these steps in detail. So first step, setting up clear boundaries for AI capabilities, defining clear roles, tool access and orchestration boundaries within Bedrock agents, and within IAM, setting up least privilege policies for service access, and step function restricting how agents interact with other systems and agents. So second step or approach, applying least privilege access for these AI agents using IAM, AWS organization, setting up the right policies and across accounts, using IAM access analyzer to identify overly permissive policies and unintended access across database, external APIs, and compute resources. Implementing strong authentication for AI services when processing incoming requests using Amazon Cognito for secure user authentication, IAM to manage workload authorization for workloads, secret manager to store credentials and for API access, for API keys and AI applications to access service targets. The fourth step is like protecting the training data and retrieval data, preventing it from data poisoning or data leakage using Amazon KMS and using Amazon Lake Formation to put all of this data in one central location for monitoring and governance, centralized monitoring and governance. And validating prompts before reaching models. User input coming in through at the web layer, using the AWS WAF to block malicious inputs and protecting API calls, and then API gateway to control and filter sent to AI services, and then Lambda to pre-process and validate prompts before inference and accessing the foundation model. Of course, treating everything as controlled and untrusted inputs as a core principle. Test system prompts for prompt injection and attacks using AWS Core Build, Amazon Bedrock, and SageMaker. And using guardrails to restrict model inputs. And we have the model generation, and then we have Bedrock guardrails, and using Amazon Comprehend to protect sensitive information. Lambda implement additional custom validation logic to prevent data leakage and filter compliance violations. And implement deterministic workflows for critical operations. The services used here are Event Bridge, Step Function, and Lambda to ensure AI acts as an assistant rather than directly controlling critical operations. Step 9, centralized monitoring, enable centralized logging of all the prompts that are being sent in, all the actions that AI agents are taking, and the API calls that all of these AI agents and services are making using CloudTrail and CloudWatch. CloudTrail basically track everything, all the API calls between services. CloudTrail to collect logs, metrics, and monitor data for AI systems. And then OpenSearch to search and generate reports for log analytics, auditing, and investigation. And step 10 is monitoring continuous AI activity using Guardrail, Security Hub, and Config. Using AI config for config changes and compliance across all of the services. Security Hub to aggregate all of the security alerts, misconfigurations, compliance for taking action, and GuardDuty for detecting suspicious activities and anomalies and potential threats. And I put together some of the resources, links in here, the white papers, and I think security architecture framework, that reference architecture. There's a new white paper that came up 2 weeks ago, I think, so you can refer to that as well. And all of these resources are excellent resources for securing agentic AI systems. And secure AI is not a feature, it's an architecture. I think this morning you heard it's a team effort, and all of the team and all of the configuring the services to put together a secure AI system. It's not a feature. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? Yes, please.
Two questions.
Yeah.
First, you had a slide where you say Asian.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be agentic.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between Asian and agentic. So
Agent and agentic.
yeah, you said to talk about agents.
Yeah.
But the title of your presentation is agentic.
Yeah. The whole system is agentic system.
So agent include agentic.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain?
Yeah. Agentic is a general term for the whole system.
Agent and then agentic is a special case, right?
Yeah.
So when you say agent here, you mean the overall umbrella include agentic.
Correct. Yes.
Second question, what do you mean by deterministic? What do you mean by
Deterministic. How do we put together a solution to kind of determine the overall security approach? And
deterministic means what? Deterministic workload means what?
Yeah, deterministic workflow.
What do you mean?
yeah, basically having the right workflows in place, validating all the workflows, right? Of course, you're creating an AI agent to perform a certain function, right? This AI agent will do this. This AI agent will do this. Each of it is doing a workflow, right? Taking an action, right?
Deterministic means
Yeah, you know what the agent is going to do. Like, you know, you're making this agent to do this particular task. This agent workflow is a set of agents, a set of agents doing a particular workflow end to end. When I say workflow, it's a combination of let's say 5 agents performing that workflow end to end.
what you call it deterministic.
Means you know what this is going to do.
Means the end
Yeah.
result is the same no matter how many times you invoke the same set of workload.
Yeah, maybe it's setting up boundaries and just boundaries so that you know this workflow is going to do this by using all of these agents and not going to do something else. You determine the scope of the whole thing, the workflow, the entire workflow. Good question. Yes.
So, in the past 4, 5, 6 years, I get 1 or 2 letters of breaches because of data being compromised. So, are you saying that this is like best practices? If in the past, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so in the past 6 years, it's like every year I get 1 to 2 letters that there's been a breach in my data, my private data. So you're saying, are these like best practices? And then with AI working with the best practices, our data will be safer? I mean,
Yeah.
is that what you're saying? I mean, because is this going to get better? Is this going to secure these best practices plus the AWS, AI? Is that going to help us secure our personal data or our work data or our social security, our taxes, our medical?
Yeah, of course. As of today, this, I put together based on the information that's, AWS services and information that's available today, right? We all know that things are changing, right? In terms of the threats, in terms of, in terms of the new services that are coming up with AWS, as of today, this is the best approach that I put together, But if things change, like 2 months from now, there is different set of, threats and vulnerabilities, that will be addressed
And
constantly.
are companies like using more of these best practices because, are they aware that, are they using AWS or maybe some other platform to secure people?
Of course, they have other tools also, right? Other platforms to monitor across their whole entire agentic system. Like Palo Alto, they have Agentic AI security monitoring system. It's not only monitor. So what we have reviewed in this session is managing only AI Agentic AI systems, right? There are other solutions out there in the market that can, manage AI agentic system across, like from Microsoft, Google, or any other, your own agents that you have, right? For example, ServiceNow has this thing called AI Control Tower. So it kind of, manages your entire AI agentic system. So, this only covers AI agents built on AWS. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Dealing with AWS, of course, it's cost.
Yeah.
Right? Microservices, services. So when you start to implement this, is there something we can always monitor to see that, or tell us, or to say, okay, you need this or you need that, or is it, you have to think about this whole thing holistically, put this whole thing together. How can we do it so we can do it deterministically?
Deterministically, yeah. Yeah.
Different solutions and times.
From a security point of view, or
From a security point of view, how do we know what to spend on first in this type of solution?
yeah, it depends what you already have, right? What services you already have. For example, like we saw all these services, right? I'm sure you have IAM, basic, IAM to, let's go. You have IAM, of course you're using Bedrock agents. You're going to put in, controls, so, set up boundaries, roles, and it's,
Start using the bit.
yeah, using all of these services and then implement, security, take security measures across all of the services that you already have. Within Bedrock, IAM, step function, uh, uh, access analyzer, organization, and then cognite all of this. You find out all of the security features that can be enabled and additional monitoring that can be set up to monitor your, Agentic landscape. Yeah.
Can, like, trusted advice would be a guide to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Or
Yeah. It's basically a report, right? Trusted advisor is basically a report.
What is needed or what you can use.
Yeah. What is needed for your architecture.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So all of these, when you use all of these systems, KMS, lake formation, WAF, and SageMaker if you're using, for training evaluation, and then basically CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and then all of this. Yeah, I'm a lot. If you're using Security Hub, GuardDuty, config, it's like you get the consolidated view of your not only agentic AI systems but all of the other AI system workloads that you're running on AWS.
Yeah, it's just this is great framework. It's just when you want to turn certain things on. That's what. When and
It depends on your projects, how you're progressing, what you're deploying in production versus development, right? Once you put in development, then you have to see what's going on using a Security Hub, config to monitor changes, who's doing the changes, somebody changes permissions for these AI agents, it can do random things, right?
yeah,
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
so yeah, the user monitor all of this using all of suspicious activities using GuardDuty.
So depend on the stage you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the ways to defend, so for example, for character smuggling in AWS, which layer we can do it? Ideally, using deterministic flow.
Which layer we could use? Sorry, I missed that second.
To protect from character smuggling.
Character
Say,
smuggling?
Like, adversarial attack, pushing some non-ASCII symbols to break something. Is AWS suggesting using guardrails, little guardrails, or some controls in WAF or API gateways?
I think it's a combination of all of the above, I would say. Like, at the WAF layer, you want to prevent, at the web layer. And then once it comes in, once you're processing it, then of course Bedrock guardrails, right? When they're accessing the training data or the data, the model that you have at the Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock layer. And what was the third thing that you mentioned?
Character smuggling?
Character smuggling, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that would be covered using Amazon Bedrock as well as the WAF.
I wonder how it multiplies the cost of using this agent application. Because I believe each layer of security adds more cost.
Yeah. I mean, you set up basically, what you need, like, what you're using and what you need to, what's really important to you, right? Not enable everything, like GuardDuty, Security Hub, and config, all of that is going to add up. So what is important to you? What do you need to monitor, right? What's, like all of the things that you mentioned, right? You enable all of the security functions in that particular tool or across all of these tools, not everything. Right? You don't enable everything, right? You monitor what's important to you and manage.
Is there any guidance on what to enable?
There's you go through these resources I put it. The first thing, that prescriptive guidance, right? Agentic AI framework, protocols, and tools. It's a 80-page white paper.
From
Cost perspective, you just set up limits or like, there are other best practices on how to control costs using. There are a lot of other resources how to control cost, right? This is about security. Any other questions? Page down, page down, page down. Yep. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Enjoy your lunch.